mother of a toddler and baby girl triplets who were born earlier this year. We didn't know we were having triplets, by the way, until about 3 weeks before we had the babies. So if you haven't heard that story, be sure to check out the other videos on our channel, including our pregnancy story. And while you're at it, please subscribe. We will be updating this channel weekly with new chapters of our story and glimpses into what our life is like with triplets and a toddler. Today, I am going to be telling our triplet birth story, which I'm super excited about. I've been wanting to share this for a really long time, and I'll be talking about our whole experience from the time I was checked into the hospital till when we had the girls and their time in the Nicu afterwards before we were able to take them home. So when we found out at 30 weeks that we were actually having triplets, we found out that that third baby that we didn't know was there before was measuring much smaller than the other two girls. And our doctor told us, we're going to be monitoring you and the babies, especially baby C, very closely. Baby C was going to be the one who would determine when we would deliver. They needed to monitor her growth, make sure she was getting everything she needed, and when it was time for her to come out, we were going to have a C-section. So we ended up making it to, at about 32 weeks, things kind of started to escalate to where the doctor said, okay, we need to actually admit you to the hospital so that we can monitor you around the clock, monitor the babies around the clock. So a little bit over 32 weeks on a Saturday, I was checked into the hospital, and the following day, that Sunday, they actually noticed a couple of dips in baby C's heart rate and some issues with the blood flow to the placenta that she was getting. And so our doctor kind of gave us a warning, said, we're going to check again tomorrow, but be preparing yourself mentally because we're probably going to schedule this delivery soon. So the following day on Monday, everything seemed fine. Baby C's heart rate was good, blood flow looked good, and our doctor's like, great, well, we may be able to just wait this out. And then he called me about 15 minutes later and he said, Jenna, I just have this feeling we need to schedule this delivery. The benefits you would get from waiting an extra week don't outweigh the risks that we're taking by keeping the babies in there, especially baby C. So we're going to schedule a C-section for this Thursday, which was going to be at 33 weeks and 2 days. So I had my two doctors who were there for the procedure, my perinatologist who took over my case once we found out we were having triplets, and my regular obstetrician who requested specifically to be a part of the procedure. He wanted to be there to assist. So I got wheeled into the operating room for the delivery, and the first thing I remember is getting the anesthesia. The anesthesiologist came in, and I had her behind me administering the anesthesia, and my labor and delivery nurse was right in front of me, face to face, walking me through the process, making sure I was okay. And once the anesthesia took effect, laid down while they got everything set up, and once they had that curtain set up, I had those two doctors who I knew very well, who I trusted. I had one of them on each side of me, my perinatologist and my OB. The labor and delivery nurse was now to my right, and behind me was the anesthesiologist. And this was something that surprised me, that she really stayed for a part of the whole procedure. I had just remembered when I had Liam, the anesthesiologist came in, gave me the epidural, and left, and that was it. So I kind of thought that would be the case when I had the C-section, but the anesthesiologist was behind me the entire procedure and really was the one who was talking me through everything. She was making sure I was doing okay, making sure I was feeling okay, telling me, okay, now you're gonna feel some pressure here, and now this is what they're doing, and here comes the first baby. And she was a major part of my experience, which I didn't expect. To my left, of course, was my husband, and you have your arms spread out like this, and I think my husband, Kyle, was holding my hand the whole time. So what I just really remember as I laid there and this was about to happen, that I just had this circle around me. My doctors, my nurse, the anesthesiologist, my husband, and it was this circle of people who I trusted, and I felt safe and protected, and just really felt like this is going to be okay. Just a quick disclaimer, I am going to show here a few short video clips from the actual birth. These were taken by Kyle from behind the curtain, so there's nothing too graphic here, but you can see the umbilical cord and the doctors cutting the umbilical cord. If that's not something you want to see, feel free to skip forward a bit. Otherwise, what you will see is each baby coming out, starting with baby A, then baby B, then baby C.
Hi, baby.
Hi. Hi.
First baby
Oh, cry. Wow.
Pretty girl.
Oh. That's okay.
Hi, beautiful child.
Hello. Hi.
Hi, mommy. Hi, boo-boo.
Hi.
Hi, beautiful. Hi, you're beautiful. This baby's so cute. Hi, you're like, what are you doing? Hi, gorgeous.
Hello.
Daddy, I'm so cute. Hi, pumpkin. We've been waiting for you. Awful lot like her sister. You are so cute.
Aww.
And there was a team of doctors there waiting for each baby as they came out, a team of doctors and nurses, and a team for baby A, a team for baby B, a team for baby C. Between all of those medical teams and the medical team that was assisting me, there was a lot of people in the room for this delivery. But I really was just aware of that circle that was around me. So at that point, once all three babies were born, they are taken out of the room, and my husband went with the babies. This was something I was prepared for ahead of time, that I knew was going to be different with having a C-section, is that once the babies were born, I would not be able to stay with the babies. And I really felt comfortable knowing that Kyle was going to be there with them, looking out for them, making sure that everything was okay, and I really trusted him to handle that situation and be able to communicate with me what was going on. So this is Kyle. I thought it would be good to hear from you and what your experience was like, especially since you were with the girls right after they were born. So tell us what that was like.
Because we were only the second set of triplets delivered at the hospital, I think ever. Because they upgraded the children's hospital to a higher stage to be able to take on triplets and smaller babies. So the whole hospital, I feel like, knew about us before we even had the official birth, because everything was very scheduled. So the day of, I mean, it was very calm. They wheeled you off. I believe we took some pictures before they wheeled you off. Then they brought me over and said, okay, let's go over to the waiting area. So at the waiting area that says Dad in waiting. And then pretty quickly they said, okay, I mean, it still felt like a long time, but if you look back time-wise, it was probably only 10 minutes, 15 minutes from when I sat down to when they asked me, okay, let's go into the room. Went into the room, saw just tons of people. Jenna was already there, ready to go. And then they basically had everything boom, boom, boom. Babies came out one at a time, all crying, all looking great. Probably saw you can see in another video, them actually coming out. It was really surreal. I mean, sat there and got to see everything. It was just, wow, I'm like getting emotional thinking about it. Then they had a room right next door that had all three of their incubator heaters. They had 3 people on each of the babies to go and make sure that everything was perfect. I mean, everything was really well choreographed, super smooth. Did an amazing job. It was impressive to see. I mean, it didn't look like it was their second time ever delivering triplets. It looked like they do it every day. I mean, it was very, very quick, efficient, fast, and everyone was really nice. Got to go right there, look at each of the babies right away. They're weighing them. Actually, got to check out all three. All three of them looked good, and I was really nervous about Cecilia because she was 13-20 grams. Baby C, sorry, Cecilia. But she was doing great. They're all right there, breathing on their own, and needed I don't even think they put oxygen on them until they got them downstairs. So after they stabilized them, everything was really fast for about each of the babies stabilized, I'd say 15 minutes or so. And then they rushed them down, actually got to go past our parents, and they got to see the whole entourage going down the hallway where they're waiting in another waiting room, and then go in the elevator down to the NICU where they had rooms waiting. They had the corner suite, so they wheeled them right off, and then as soon as they were wheeled down, the final baby was wheeled down, then I went down and got to see them all getting checked out and making sure everything was good. Had an oxygen specialist was the main thing they had going. They couldn't get all three of them in the same room just because of the specialized equipment.
Yeah, they had told us that beforehand, that the girls would be put in 2 different rooms.
Yeah.
But hopefully adjoining, which they were.
Yeah, which they were.
With the window between.
With the window.
Yeah.
So it was really nice, but super surreal seeing it all happen. It was definitely scary, but at first before they came out, but everything, was so smooth, so professional. Dr. Dunn came down, talked to me, sort of expectations, how long generally they're going to stay in the NICU. Generally, it's around their normal full gestational age is when they'll stay in. Ended up being a lot shorter than that, but which was awesome because they did so amazing, and you did so amazing. So, and then I was down there, I'd say about 30 to 45 minutes, just checking out all the babies, everything. They're all doing so amazing. And then I was going to go see Jenna, and then I got word from one of the nurses, let me know, hey, Jenna would like to go and see you. I was like, oh my gosh, of course. I rushed up to go see her and tell her all the great news. They're all beautiful. We were worried, that baby C wasn't going to have, full hands and feet and everything, because couldn't see her that well beforehand. She was so tight in there, but she came out just thriving, which is crazy. It's just amazing. I have no idea how that happened, how you've made that happen.
It's crazy because I don't even remember you coming to see me. I just know my priority was for you to be with the girls, but turned out I wasn't feeling so well after the delivery.
No, I walked in, told you the great news, I remember, and she was very, very shaky, like uncontrollably shaky, which they said was part of the anesthesia, which to me, it was too much. I was instantly worried about you and wanted to be with you, and I was so happy because, it was so comforting that all the girls were getting taken care of so well, and I was worried about you, so I was obviously spent a lot of time with you after this. But I told you the great news. I know you were really happy. You're glowing with joy, but just shaking uncontrollably with it, which, made me nervous, right. But I didn't tell you this.
I was not doing so great. So I don't really remember a whole lot after that. It's really all a blur. But what I do remember is telling the nurses at one point, so I'm seeing stars. Is that normal? And they said, well, that could be a sign of preeclampsia. Let's run some tests. And it turned out I did have very sudden and very severe preeclampsia that just came on that day. They said the good news is the cure for preeclampsia is delivery, and you have delivered your babies, so you should be getting better soon. We're going to put you on magnesium for 24 hours. That's the normal thing to do, and you should be feeling better within that period of time. So I stayed in recovery, and unfortunately, my condition did not improve. it progressed to the point where the next morning I was not doing well, and my doctor said, well, we're going to have to transfer you to the ICU. And that was a really scary moment for me. That was the first time I felt like, oh my gosh, am I going to be okay? So that was a scary time, and I got wheeled down to the ICU, but on the way, they let me go into the NICU to see my babies for the first time since they had been delivered. Baby A and baby B were in one room. We hadn't named them yet because my husband and I wanted to be able to hold them and see them together and talk about what names we think would fit them best. So went into baby A and baby B's room, and I got to just see them in the isolettes. They couldn't take them out at that point, and then they wheeled me into a different room right next door where baby C was, and they actually got to take her out so that I could hold her. She was my tiny mighty little one, and I had her on my chest, and she was the first baby that we named at that time. We named her Cecilia, and that was just a really emotional moment. I was crying, Kyle was crying, but we had a moment there before I actually got transferred to the ICU. And I ended up in the ICU for over a day, just about a day and a half. And luckily, I just bounced back. It was like I delivered the babies, went off a cliff, and then just bounced right back up. So we were really lucky, I think, that I recovered as quickly as I did. But also, we were really lucky that we scheduled the delivery for when we did. Because there was some talk about should we wait or should we move forward, and our doctor told us later that he actually got a lot of pushback from the other doctors about, why are you scheduling this delivery? You can wait. And we're just really fortunate that he trusted his gut and that we trusted him, and that we scheduled the delivery for when we did, because if we hadn't had the girls that day, I would have had very severe preeclampsia, and our delivery experience would have been completely different. But luckily it went the way it did, and we gave birth to 3 healthy, beautiful babies. I had a little health scare there, but came out of it okay. I was in the hospital for a few days more days. During that time, I was able to start visiting the girls in the NICU much more. We were able to name baby A and baby B once we got to see them and hold them. Baby A is Kaylee, baby B is Lily, and of course baby C is Cecilia. So I was visiting the girls, pumping every 2 or 3 hours. Even when I was in the ICU, I was pumping. And I just remember thinking, even though I can't be with my babies all day, I can pump, I can provide them colostrum, I can provide them with milk, and that was like the one thing that I could do for my babies. So I was discharged a couple of days later, and that was something I was prepared for as well. I knew that having triplets, having them early, they would be spending time in the NICU. They would not just be coming home with us. So that was something that I was prepared for, and there's always a little bit of guilt involved with that when you go home and your babies are still in the hospital, and you're feeling like, how can I be going home? I should be at the hospital with them and by their side constantly. But luckily, we had complete faith in the nurses and the doctors and the medical teams that were looking after our babies. We felt so confident in the care. They were getting the absolute best care, and they didn't really have any major health problems. They were just small and needed to learn how to feed and grow, feeders and growers they call them. So they needed some more time there, and it really did give me some more time to focus on my recovery, especially after having the preeclampsia. So I could really get to a point where I was healthy and could better take care of them. It also allowed me to go home and be with my son Liam, who was 2.5 years old at the time, and it's this pull in different directions of every hour I'm at the hospital is time I'm away from Liam, and just trying to find some balance there. But our NICU experience was a very positive one. We got to know the nurses really well. They were wonderful. They showed us how to take care of preemie babies, which is a completely different ballgame. Learned how to check their temperature and make sure they were maintaining their temperature. Helped us teach the babies how to breastfeed, which is really difficult to do with preemies. So those nurses and doctors were there with us every step of the way, and we felt really as prepared as we could be, I would say, once it was time to bring them home. So Kaylee and Lily came home after 19 days in the NICU, and Cecilia, our tiny mighty little one, just needed a little more time to feed and grow and be able to maintain her temperature on her own. She just had an extra 5 days, so she came home after 24 days. I feel like the hardest time from our NICU experience was that time when the 2 girls were home and Cecilia was still in the NICU. I couldn't bring the other 2 girls with me to the NICU, so if I went to see Cecilia, I was leaving Kaylee and Lily behind. In addition to that, my son Liam was sick with a cold, and so he had to stay at his grandparents' house, so he couldn't be around the girls and chance getting them sick. So I had my 4 children spread out in 3 different places, and it just felt like my heart was torn into pieces. So that was the hardest part, and I think I'll never forget when we finally brought Cecilia home and Liam was healthy enough, and I had all 4 of my children under the same roof. So that was a wonderful feeling. That was also very terrifying, because in that moment you're like, okay, well, now what? How do we manage and take care of 3 newborn preemies and a very active toddler who is requiring our attention for a lot of the time as well? So I feel like that's a chapter for another day. And in the meantime, please comment. We would love to hear from you. And subscribe so you can be updated when we post new videos, which we'll be doing soon. So until then, thanks for watching.